Now can I show you my artefacts? These are real Papua New Guinean dinky dye artefacts, you could say, because today is the first day that we're going to show you our Papua New Guinean special. Now, have a look at this thing here. These are all different types of accessories and jewellery. This is a belt, which would even be fashionable in Australia nowadays, wouldn't it? You know, the big wide style. You can pop that on if you like, Vicky.
What's it made from?
It's just made from reeds and things like that. But
very nice.
But normally, only the gentlemen wear that in Papua New Guinea.
Ah, right.
Oh,
and
right,
the same with most of this jewellery. It's only the guys that dress up, really. It's amazing. This bangle was made from cane that was woven around, and that had a lot of work in that. And this one made out of reeds and bones, and it's incredibly heavy. I don't know if you could hear that, but you'd certainly get strong if you were wearing it.
You're not kidding. I mean,
you want to pop that on?
Why not?
Might do something for you. You can work out with it.
This must look fantastic over there when you saw all this stuff. All the guys dressed up with all this.
All their gear. I mean, it was just completely different.
I bet.
From anything here.
Yeah.
Wait, that looks nasty.
Yes, this is a knife, and it is nasty, but it's made from bone because they don't have metal or anything over there, so they just do the best they can do from what they've got, much like Australia's Aboriginals.
Sure,
Right.
yeah.
And this is just a nice little necklace here.
Oh, very nice.
Hey?
Very nice.
I like it.
Excuse me?
And the bag?
Yeah.
The bag? This is called a billum bag, and all these sorts of things are carried around in one of these.
Yeah.
And in fact, the mothers carry around their babies in a billum bag.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did this all come about?
Well, see, what happened is last September I got a letter from someone in Papua New Guinea. Now, I don't know anybody in Papua New Guinea, right? So I couldn't wait to work out what it was. And as I read on, I found out that it's from a 7-year-old boy who had found a message in a bottle.
Well, wait a minute. Before you get into all that, I just want to know, are we looking forward to having a slide night with you? I mean, do you have
No, I don't have any slides. But I do have a few happy snaps that I do want to show you. Just a few. They're really good, too. Now, this is one of the houses, typical sorts of houses that they live in up there. You can see the cool shaded area underneath where they do most of their day-to-day things. And there's a boat down the bottom here where...
Check out the boat.
Yeah, it's huge. That's a big one. That's one for the whole family.
Yeah.
But we travelled on a sort of different boat, that one there. And although it looks a lot better, it broke down in the middle of a thunderstorm with fog all around us. We were lost and scared.
Oh, no.
It was amazing.
And this fella?
That's scary too. That's one of their pets.
You're kidding.
No, they don't have a pet dog.
Sure.
Why stop at a pet dog? Why not get a crocodile? And they'll get some other photos here of New Guinea kids and all that sort of stuff.
Was this another excuse for one of your wild holidays again?
No, I had a really good reason for going.
Yeah?
You see, we ran a competition on Come On Kids last year, and which featured as the first prize a trip on the Fair Star. And there's a picture of the Fair Star right here. And of course, that's the reason that this whole trip started. The Fair Star wasn't planning on sailing anywhere near Papua New Guinea, and as our competition winner Amanda Nelson and I waved goodbye to the thousands of well-wishers who had lined the dock, it was the last place on our minds. We were headed for 2 weeks of adventure among the jewels of the South Pacific Islands, but as we found out, not all of the fun was to be had ashore. The Fair Star's Kids Club came up with some great ideas to while away the days at sea. One of the best was giving everyone a chance to launch a message in a bottle. This activity was normally organised for when the ship is only a day away from arrival back in Sydney. That way, the bottles have a good chance of washing up somewhere along the east coast of Australia. On this occasion, though, we were less than 12 hours out of Fiji, and the ship's crew could help little in estimating where our bottles may have ended up. I honestly believed that this was the last time I'd see mine. That was until 5 months later, when I received that amazing letter from 7-year-old John Maper telling me that my bottle had drifted over 4,000 kilometres to Papua New Guinea. All I knew was that he lived somewhere near Daru in the western province of the country, and if I ever hoped to meet John and his family, this is where I'd have to begin my search. Though Daru is a metropolis as far as this area is concerned, it's still very primitive by Australian standards. For instance, nobody knows what time it is. They just point out the angle of the sun. John Maipa had written to me with some help from a government official based here. Unfortunately, he had since left his job, and no one had any clue as to where he had gone or even if he had passed on my letter to John. Basically, it looked as if we'd have to question everyone within 100 kilometres to find out where John and his family lived. That, fueled with our pilot telling me that this area was famous for being the dwelling place of Papua New Guinea's last known tribe of cannibals, made me feel more than wary as I stepped off the plane. Those days are long gone though, and in fact nowadays the locals here are widely known as being the friendliest and most helpful people in the whole country. With folks like that about, I decided that it was too hot to work. I'll just have a look around. Daru is actually a small island, which was settled around 100 years ago as a trading port for pearls, and its waters still provide for a thriving fishing industry. Even though their boats are handmade, little surprises such as this outboard motor prove that they're not totally behind the times. These people aren't in any hurry to join the age of technology. They've learned to live by simple means, and that's the way they like it. If the pace ever seems slow, it's because of the intense humidity, which seems to drain you of energy within minutes. Striking up a conversation was tough. I was obviously an out-of-towner, but apart from these kids being naturally shy, very few islanders can speak English at all. Ask a simple question though, and you'll always get a straight answer. What are the kids cooking here?
Fish.
And where did they get the fish from?
They get the fish from the salt water there.
How did they catch it?
With the net.
Oh, they've got a net out there?
Yeah, they have the net there.
When did they put the net out?
They just came down now. Just came down and they put the net there.
So the net stays out there all the time?
No, they're just coming for picking, the small ones. Yeah.
Tell me about today. Everyone seems to just be sitting about. Why is that?
It seems that everybody, this Sunday and they're just coming to the beach and then just to see the village people coming from the village, or some people going out fishing and then, you know, some people to buy fish from them.
So Sunday is just a rest day?
Yeah, it's a rest day.
Do whatever you want?
Yeah, do whatever they want.
It's the same in Australia. Further down the coast, we find Daru suburbia. The town's permanent population numbers around 8,000, but that doesn't include the hundreds of visitors who constantly occupy the beaches. These raised homes are as close as Daru gets to high-rise. Usually the top section is only used for sleeping quarters, and most living is done underneath because it's so much cooler. Apart from the permanent houses here, some of Daru's population live along the waterfront here in these huts. They're usually people from outlying villages who have come to Daru to sell all their wares in the Daru market. They'll stay as long as it takes to sell their stock, and in the meantime they'll take care of themselves, catching their own food in the harbour here. The huts are makeshift and are put up in record speed, but for those few months of the year, it's a place to call home. I guess you could say that it's a bit like camping out, only these families don't have the luxury of pop-up tents. Much like Robinson Crusoe, they have to build a shelter for themselves from whatever they can find. If there's enough room on the boat, many families actually bring all the tools and materials they need with them. Traditionally, it's the man's job to construct the hut, and that even goes for the kids too. It was amazing to watch the house take shape. There weren't any plans to follow, yet everyone knew what to do. And although most carried out their work quietly, someone had to give orders. The basic framework took the group around 10 minutes to construct, and just as I began to wonder where the roof was going to come from, the builders unloaded these ready-to-use leaf mats, like pieces from a handyman's do-it-yourself kit. The roof was prepared by family members on board their canoe during the long voyage from their village and fitted together like pieces of a jigsaw, with a minimum of fuss and just a few tips from the chief site construction officer. Once the roof is on, the leftover pieces make up the walls, and before you know it, instant house in around 20 minutes. Now the family can start thinking about catching some dinner and stoking up the fire. None of the huts could be described as mansions, but at least they provide shelter, and not a moment too soon. One other interesting thing about Papua New Guinea is that the weather here can change with the blinking of an eye. Unlike Australia, where we have 4 seasons, Papua New Guinea only has 2, the wet and the dry. And guess what? I think we're lucky enough to be here in the wet season. Next up, we get back on the track of John Maipa and challenge the locals at their own games. The town of Daru revolves around its famous marketplace. It boasts the largest selection of foods and crafts in the entire province, so it's easy to understand why folks travel for days to get here. Now, I love my veggies, but the range available here was very different from Australia. There are a lot of new names, wongi and sago, and a strange type of banana which has to be cooked before it can be eaten. I'd imagine finding a wider variety of tropical fruits here, such as pineapples, but a lack of good land in this area means that locals can't afford to plant crops which grow too slowly or flower too rarely. I'm always willing to give most things a go though, so when in Rome... All right, just bite straight into it. All right, here we go. It's really very sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, nice.
How much for a bunch of these? 20 joya. I think we'll get some. Ah yes, no haggling necessary. The Bros knows where to spot a bargain. And these fish were definitely worth a closer look. You won't find any lamb, beef or poultry here, only fish. But once you've tasted it, you'll never want to eat anything else on the island. Papua New Guinea is home to some of the best barramundi and crayfish in the world. But as you know, man cannot live on fish alone. And if you can't find what you want at the Daru market, there's a good chance you'll find it in one of the town's 3 trading stores. This is the largest, the Big K shopping centre, and it seems to have everything you'll ever need. In a place that's primitive in so many ways, a building like this was the last thing I expected to see. And although the array of fashion garments couldn't be called trendy, there's no need to dress up in Daru. This store acts as a kind of clearinghouse, stocking whatever leftover goods didn't sell in Australia. All the food is imported from North Queensland and plays an important role in enhancing the people's natural diet with a range of foods unable to be produced here. I would have loved to stay and browse a little longer, but that wouldn't have helped me track down John Maipa. My first task was to find the town's radio station. Unfortunately though, I had to pass by the local basketball court on the way, and you wouldn't believe it, they were one short. Well, I didn't want to let the guys down, and besides, it gave the game much more of an international feel, and that means bigger crowds. Not many people know it, but they used to call me Goose in my heyday. Something to do with the way I run, apparently. What a game we've got on our hands. It'll be Goose Brosnan to inbound for the Barras. Scores tight. Gets it away to Kupiti Cage. Smooth as you like down the court. Looking at a 2-1-2 zone defence. Straight out to the 45 he goes. Brosnan's up for the jumper and the Goose is good for 3 points. Oh, good one for his trouble. This guy can take it. What a character. The fans love him. Well, the Goose hadn't lost his touch, but where the competition's high, so are the players. I'm too short. That's right. No matter how hard I tried, these guys seem to have the jump on me every time. Luckily, nearby was a game that was more down to earth. Now, when it comes to marbles, I've never been sure of all the rules, but this one-eyed homeside crowd showed no mercy, and they let me know it when I messed up. I'm sure that when these kids saw me coming, they found their local champions to match up against me, because these fellas were good. It was going to take the shot of the century to beat these guys. Well, sports fans, don't worry about little details like who won or lost. I could have beaten them, but I was in a hurry to find that radio station. Apart from playing all the best of local and top 40 hits, this radio station offers a very valuable service to the community here. Twice a day, its community message program is about the only chance for the people of Daru to make contact with the outlying villages in the Western Province. It may be our only chance to track down John Maipa.
Here is a message for Baliwama Mewa, Mr. Webo and Pilisa and Matthew.
Finding this particular announcer on air when we arrived turned out to be our best break yet in the long search for John. The DJ had actually recognised the name Maipa, and after checking his own files, found that there was a family of the same name in a village called Old Mawata, about an hour's boat ride away. I quickly scribbled out a note for John to hear.
A message to John Maipa and his family of Old Mawata village. Tomorrow, Michael Brosnan and the
Come On
Kids crew from Channel 9 in Australia will be visiting you to meet your friends and share a few days with you. Kindest regards from Michael Brosnan and Come On Kids Australia. Radio Western, Sida hadi behir vadia umi kamna no hari.
Phew, just in time. All there was left to do now was hope that John heard us. When we come back, we'll check out what goes on when the sun goes down. And it's party time, Papua New Guinea style. Although the scene along the Daru waterfront may be relaxed and carefree by day, as the sun starts to slip below the horizon, many of the residents take to their boats and do their best to catch some fish for the next day's meals. By the time the stars begin appearing in the sky, all the noise and activity upon the beach disappears. However, there is still a lot going on. Like most parts of the world, this time of day is often the best chance for the family to come together and talk about the day's adventures over the evening meal. This family I spoke to, though, was a long way from home.
We are from Kira Island and we're from Daru.
How far away is Kira Island?
That was a month of flying. About 50 miles away from here.
Right, so how long was that, a day trip?
We spent 3 days.
3 days
Travel
getting
from here. Travel from Daru to the village.
Mm-hmm. And what have you brought with you?
What is it?
What have you brought with you?
Coconuts, taro kongkong, and sweet potatoes, pawpaw, sago for sale. And on the way we get some fish and bring them here to Daru for sale.
Okay, and some you've eaten and some yourself?
Yes, some we eat them.
How do you like staying here on the beach, on the boat?
Oh, but I enjoy myself. You stay in the house, it's no good. But in the beach, because we get used to it, so I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And what about the rest of the family? Do you all like it? Yes? I guess a trip like this is much like an average Aussie family going on a houseboat holiday, except for a few modern comforts, that is. In fact, it was quite a good idea to camp on the waterfront because the air was still as hot and humid as it was during the day, but the cool water helped make life comfortable. It was a great night for a beach walk, and even though Papua New Guinea is known as the crocodile capital of the world, these guys assured me that I was fairly safe in this area. Fairly safe? Well, I guess you can never be sure. They had actually been out hunting crocodiles for food, and unfortunately arrived back too late for the tide to carry them any closer to the shore. Instead, they had an ingenious idea for making good use of their sail. Are you taking the sail off to make a roof for the hut?
No, we make it here. They're going to sleep here.
So are you making a hut on your boat tonight?
Yes, yes.
Is the beach full of people? No more room?
Yes, yes, yes. Full of people.
Daru certainly was busy tonight, but first in, best dressed, as they say, and these fellas would simply have to take whatever anchorage they could find and hope that they wouldn't have to put up with noisy neighbours as they bed down for the night. Not all of the visitors to Daru were here to set up camp for the markets. This bunch of 30 or so travellers appeared from out of nowhere, apparently arriving all upon the one canoe.
Why did you come here tonight? Oh, is there a dance on there?
They could only be described as the Papua New Guinean equivalent of the Great Aussie Rager. They were here for a party, and being the incredibly friendly people they are, wouldn't let me leave without promising to turn up and join in. What was the party for? Who knows? But more importantly, who cares? It wasn't exactly a disco, but this special festival, which was actually in commemoration of a sacred day, had brought together just about every family in the district. The best thing about this party was that you didn't have to get dressed up. That was unless you planned on dancing the night away, in which case it was the custom to wear one of these traditional woven leaf skirts. Not exactly macho, but then rules are rules. And anyway, who'd argue with one of these guys? It's also a tradition that only the men dance, but that sounded to me like a poor excuse for making sure the wives had plenty of time to make the tea and coffee. There were a lot of kids about too, and although it was well past midnight, they all seemed to be wide awake and ready for anything. For some kids, it was their first opportunity to perform this special dance in public, and they wouldn't have missed it for the world. The show was planned to continue right through to the morning, but I couldn't afford to stay that long. I was already tired, and tomorrow was sure to be a big day. Hopefully, I would finally be meeting John Maipa. We had organised a boat to take me to the village that the radio announcer had told me about. I wasn't even sure if I was chasing the right family. Only that message in a bottle would set the story straight.
What a party!
Takes me back, that does.
Fantastic.
Wild party.
We have one question, though.
Yeah. Where's the boy who found the message in the bottle?
Well, you see, we think we've tracked him down.
Ah, yeah.
Tomorrow, we're taking you to his village, hopefully, you see. I'm not giving anything away here, but this is when we arrived and there were people everywhere. We got a great welcoming party. It was amazing. They just took such good care of us, couldn't believe it.
Food?
Oh, laid it on thick. Look at this. Free milk whenever you want it.
Wow.
Amazing. And the kids caught us some fish. Look at that. I didn't have very much luck, but they were pretty good at it.
This is paradise lost, isn't
It's
it?
terrific. And
Okay, the boy.
turned on a dance for us and everything. It was terrific.
Now look,
Wait.
where's the boy?
Oh.
Do you meet him? Do you speak to him? Will we see
Actually,
him?
no, he was holidaying in Tasmania when we
Oh,
arrived.
come on. Tomorrow, we see
But
him.
I'm not telling. It's tomorrow.
4 o'clock tomorrow. See you then.
Takes all the excitement out of it.